Okay, let's start with circularity. Marianne.
Yeah, so also welcome from my side. I'm really excited to kick off this program, and this is a big thing for Circularity, our strategic program. But Circularity, we've been around for a couple of years. So for those of you who don't know us, we are a professional network and innovative do tank for the German economy, the German circular economy, of course. So what is it that we do? We connect change makers within business and society who are eager to drive the transition towards circularity and develop and implement solutions together. So we've already organized more than 40 events, from networking and roundtables to big flagship conferences to focused workshops. And over the years have built quite a network within the industry and society on circular economy. And we are really excited that we're now kicking off a strategic program on consumer electronics. So what is it? What's our motivation? Right? I mean, we have set up this program, which Alina is going to share some details about in a minute. Because we really want to boost the transition towards circularity and towards circular economy in the consumer electronics sector. And why the consumer electronics sector? I mean, we've all we all see that electronic devices are proliferating in our personal lives, and we have all more and more connected devices. And that is great because we can connect with other human beings. We can thrive in our productive life, and we also be creative and do our hobbies. But at the same time, it's also connected to a big problem because electronic waste is proliferating. It's actually the fastest growing waste stream globally, right? So we have to find solutions to become smarter on this, in how we use them and in our life. And there's many people in the industry as well who's eager to transform the industry towards a more circular approach. But the problem is that individual players often cannot change the whole value chain by themselves and not implement solutions, because that requires collaboration between different partners who haven't been working before or are not directly connected today. So what we want to do with our program is we want to bring those people together who are eager to transform this industry and together see like where are the topics that we can work together, and then also to develop concrete projects and then implement them in collaboration with these industry partners. And we're kicking off this program now, and we're really happy that we have some strategic partners and big support. So we are really grateful to work with Rover, with BSH, and with rebuy, and as our strategic partners, and with Tchibo as our partner. And we are very grateful also for the very generous support of the Deutsche Bundesstiftung Umwelt, who is making this all possible. And what this program consists about specifically, Alina will tell you now.
Okay, so basically our program consists of 3 phases, and I will start with the one in the middle, which is phase 2. I'm starting with the phase 2 because this is really the heart of our program. We call it our stakeholder action track. We will have different partners, which we would choose. We are looking for about 30 to 50 engaged people who really want to implement solutions and start collaborations with each other to change something out there and within our companies. So phase 2 will really be the heart and the getting into action, starting things, and bringing changes to life. Phase 2 will start in November. As you see, we're here, it's August, because we're today starting phase 1. Phase 1 is there to create knowledge, build a network, start a platform. We want you to exchange with each other. We want you to analyze best practices, what's out there, what's working and what's not working and why. We are here to build the platform and bring you all together. We will start phase 2, which is really the corporate program. And afterwards, after ending phase 2, we will really implement these actions that we took. We want to go into communication and bring it to the public, share our learnings and the main results of the program. Okay, so this is the base of our program. I will dive a little deeper into phase 1 with you. We are aiming to conduct multi-stakeholder events in person and online. So today's event 1, which is our kickoff and also the topic of changing electronics value chains, which as you know, is an only online event. But the other events that are coming up, for example, next week, we will also have an in-person event. So as you can see in the timeline, which is a little bit grayed out, we will have different topics as collaboration between recommerce and traditional companies. We will talk about political frameworks, electronics as a service, e-waste recycling, and also reverse logistics. The team behind CiCEL is more than just 3 of us. So there are plenty of people involved in circularity and in the CiCEL team, which are working behind the scenes to make all of this happen. Our next topic on the agenda is the keynote by our speaker, Bas. And I would like to hand over to Bas, who studied design and electrical engineering and did something that no one else did before. He planned on developing a fair smartphone, which resulted in Fairphone, which I guess is known by everyone here. And I'm happy that you will dive us into the dark matter of electronics manufacturing and give us some insights on what you did.
Great, thanks a lot for the introduction. I'm happy to be opening the first of this series, and because of that, I also hope that I can be a bit of an inspiration instead of going too technical. So I will, yeah, like you said, I will dive a bit into the dark matter of what's happening, but also try to surface a bit of the problems. I think people are very well aware of many of the problems, but I think it's really nice also to have a bit of a view, a wide view of what's happening in the whole electronic supply chain, and that's also has been the starting point for Fairphone always, to look at the whole thing in a systemic way, in a holistic way. I think you said it really well. It's Marianne. It's really about it's about connecting all these things. It's not, Fairphone is a small company. We're not more than 100 people, and we can't drive this change ourselves. And I don't think that's the goal of what we're doing. So yeah, I'd like to start a bit before I dive into the company and what we do, a bit of background of me, because a lot of the philosophy and the vision of the company started actually with stuff I've been working on before that. Yeah, so this is one of my mottos. I've been working in
I think
technology.
You're not sharing yet.
Well, sorry. Yes, thanks a lot. I just switched to that. Can you see now?
Yeah, it's working.
All right. So I've been working in electronics before I started Fairphone, but I've been doing technology and I've done art school. So and it's really nice combination, because I've always been able to work on software, open source a lot, diving into the coding and into the wiring of stuff, but also thinking about contextualizing things. And that combination really made me also think on why do people make stuff in a certain way. I was one of those guys where everybody got a Nintendo and started playing with it. I started actually using my screwdriver to open it and see what's inside there. And why do they even make these products in a way that you can't open it? There's all these legal warranty shit behind it, but there's also some questions that you can ask in terms of how things are designed. Why don't they want us to open? And in that sense, technology has become a black box that we can't really look inside. I think we're happy with that many times. It's nice to have your smartphone in your hands, not to worry too much about what's inside there. But yeah, apples do not grow on a tree. They actually are manufactured, and they actually go through that whole supply chain that we just discussed. Yeah, so for me, it's always been really important starting point to work with. And if you really dive into products, and there's one I wanted to show you, one of my favorite design products. I'm not sure if the chat is working, but if anybody wants to have a guess on what kind of torture machine this is, go ahead. I think Is there anyone guessing? Well, I'll do it for you. I see it in the chat. Yeah, ripping off toes. Yeah, that's a good one. It's not that. I think you when you look at it here, it's becomes more obvious what it is. It's a toaster, and it's, to me this project actually has been always an inspiration. This is a project by Thomas Thwaites, and he was doing art school. This is an art graduation project he did. He was in a shop buying a toaster. He bought it for a couple of quid, and he asked himself the questions that we don't ask ourselves on industrialized products that much anymore. It's, where does it come from? Who made it? How is it possible that we can actually make a toaster for like 2-3 quid? And the brilliant thing is what he did. He said, why not? I'm going to make that toaster myself, and look at the world through the eyes of making that toaster. So he started in the mines, and he got into contact with miners in the UK, guys who stopped working in the mines, and everything became out these stories. And he kept a website where all these stories around how how this toaster is made, how they popped up. And he found a patent on how to get iron out of iron ore with a microwave and all kind of crazy stuff to make that toaster. And so he got that toaster almost, almost working. Well, it did work. I think it worked once. The whole thing caught on fire, and he toasted a toast. But I think one of the conclusions he had on this project is, one, we've really got alienated from how things are made. He found out a lot of things, and it's something as simple as a toaster. How many steps are needed? How many people are needed to actually make that thing? But he also found out that it's impossible to make something as simple as a toaster by yourself. And I think that's the beauty of the economic system, that we are able to make stuff we can't make on our own in our backyards. We need each other, but we've also got alienated from. And this product really shows to me how we've alienated from this industrial products, because we don't even see how they're made anymore. And you see from this product how it's actually made. So one of the things that also has been really inspiring to me is Dan Hill, who's a strategic designer. I'll translate it a bit because it's a long quote, but it's basically what he's saying. In strategic design is and that's how I approach design as well. You can change a chair, right? You can redesign a chair and you have a different chair, so you can make a chair more sustainable. But if you change the system, the dark matter, the systems that produce that chair, the companies, the cultures around those companies, the economics around those companies, if you change those, you change all the chairs. So I think, if you really look at systemic change, that's where we have to look. And that really inspired me to set up my own company. Like I said, I'm a technician, I'm a designer, but I'm not an entrepreneur. By now I might call myself an entrepreneur maybe, but I've never thought I'd set up a company. So for me, setting up that company was really something as a means to an end. And why? Because I thought, if we really want to have, impact in the world in a way that I know how to do that, and that is by making products, by making stuff, I want to do that through, in a systemic way. I don't want to make a toaster like Thomas Thwaites and put it in a museum and show people how we've alienated. I really want to go into that system and try to do that and change it. So that's why I'm now running. I've just set up my second company. That's in organics, not in phones and electronics, a totally different supply chain. But to me, that really is what it is. It's about designing companies to create systemic change in the economic system. And that is, I think, so fantastic about us being here together, that as companies, we do have a huge impact on that system that we're part of and how we can change that. So Fairphone, it started all from that kind of thinking. We just a couple of years ago, 2011 was this, already a long time ago. A friend of mine came to me and asked me, Bas, can you help me with set up a campaign around conflict minerals? I don't want to set up a campaign where a petition. So let's think about how we can do that. And then we thought about, okay, but wait a minute, conflict minerals, there are minerals being mined in Congo, where millions of people have died in mining minerals that are related, and conflicts, related to the mining of minerals we use in our electronics. But we know there are people dying in Africa. We know there's shit happening around the world. So what do we have to do with it, especially in such a complex supply chain? So how can we connect people with what's happening over there? And the easy answer to that is you can do that through a phone, right? And so we start looking into the problem. It's really nice if you set a campaign, you can actually you can point out a bad guy, and it's not that simple. You can't just point at Nokia and saying there's people dying in Congo, so it's your fault, or there's shitty jobs in China and it's your fault. It's a system thing, so that makes it hard to actually pinpoint who's the bad guy, right? And we didn't have a solution. So if you set up a campaign, you don't have a solution, you don't have a bad guy, you have a problem. So we said, well, you know what? Strategically naive. Why don't we try to create that solution ourselves? We're going to look at the world through the eyes of a phone and see what the problem actually is, and hope, or not hope, and surface it. Create ownership around that, kind of create a platform where people can join into finding out if there are any solutions we can find to these problems through the making of that phone. So it was as simple as that. I made a card saying, Bas van Abel, CEO of Fairphone. We flew to Congo, and that was the start of Fairphone. And we asked around, can you point us to a fair mine? And obviously, everybody said, yeah, the mine is there or there or there. And we knew there wouldn't be a fair mine, because all the things we found was actually what I'm going to show you now. The world through the eyes of a phone. So this is one of the stuff that we found in Congo. I think many people are familiar with the material. It's cobalt. Cobalt is being used in phones for batteries. But it's also part of the energy transition. Energy transition, where we use these kind of resources, we need them because we need to go into renewables and batteries. But still, this kind of minerals, and it's like 60–70% of the world's supply is Congo, are being mined by people like this in conditions like this, right? So, and I'm not even talking about child labor, because that's also one of the big problems. So this is health and safety. And you can imagine, our energy transition that is really about sustainability is being fueled by this kind of stuff. And that's not what we want, obviously, but this is how, this is the first step of making a battery. And on top of that, you have these conflicts going on, what I said, millions of people have died in conflicts related to the mining of these minerals. So how do we solve that? And then these products, like a phone, they come up in this factory. I cheated a bit. I think I've copied the factory into two big factories like that, but it's, I think you get the picture. It's a huge factory, and people, it's not that, people make money, but they work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't really have that great of work. They didn't have labor union, revolution, that kind of things in China yet. So then we have these products that come out of these factories, and you can't repair them. You have something in your hands. You can't even keep longer if you want to. And the question is, why would you really want to? And I think this short video will show you a bit on how funny that is, actually.
It is kind of funny how people react when the new iPhone comes out. Some people actually get mad. Why would they make another product I desperately want to buy? Those bastards. It's almost as if the new iPhone somehow ruins the old iPhone, but it doesn't. It's all in your head. In fact, we set a camera out on the street today. We told people outside to check out the new iPhone 5, which is unavailable so far. So in reality, what they were looking at is the current iPhone 4S that everyone has. Well, here's how that experiment played out. The new iPhone 5 just came out today. We want to know if you'll take a look at it. Tell us how it compares to the last iPhone. I'd love to. Oh, it's way better. Yeah, it's nice. That's definitely noticeably better. It's a little thinner. Looks like the screen's a little bigger.
Seems a little bit faster.
Yeah.
I think you guys get the picture, right? It's not about Apple in this case. It's really about how marketing has been really successful in making us buy products we actually don't need, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem of mining, but also this problem. And I think Marianne already mentioned it. Electronic waste is one of the biggest problems, the biggest growing waste that we have at the moment. There's more phones than people in the world, and this is a lot of this stuff is actually we glue batteries to the inside of a phone to make them thinner, right? We're suffering from phone anorexia in a way. And because we want to have thin phones, you glue them to the inside, you can't replace it. After 2 years, you think like, shit, my phone's not, the battery goes down, because that's what batteries do after 2 years. And you have a subscription, so you just get a new phone with your subscription, you toss the old phone in a drawer, and I think only 15% of the phones that people don't use anymore get recycled. If they get recycled, they go to, sometimes they get a new life. In Ghana, for example, in Ghana, they don't have the equipment to get batteries out, so they just burn the shit out of it. And burning products obviously is not a really good idea, especially.
Okay, I think we lost Bas. Let's give him a couple of seconds.
It's like creating world peace, right?
Oh, now you're back. We're hearing you.
Yeah, okay. Okay. It feels like creating world peace if you look at the magnitude of this problem. And if you I don't know if people have been to Mobile World Congress, but this is how it looks like. And you don't see a lot of green there, I can tell you. So, so what are you up against, right? If you want to change that? Well, the beautiful thing is I got this quote from the Dalai Lama: if you think you're too small to have an impact, try going to bed with a mosquito in a room. It always, I think my partner at work came up with this quote when we got like really depressed. She said, well, Bas, so this works, right? It works. You can have that effect, and it can have a snowball effect as well. So, so that's how we approached it as Fairphone. And, we just started, and now we are a company, 100 people, over 100 people. We have like 30, 40 million turnover. We're profitable. Everybody said you're crazy to do something like this in the phone market. And we are at our fourth phone. And the most important thing is that we can make a difference. It's not, we can't solve everything at once. Fairphone is not a Fairphone, to be honest. Fairphone is a phone that is, to me, is a platform to get to improve step by step, and to also challenge the industry to get along. And we've done that, and we've made 4 impact areas to make it a bit more easier, accessible to make that change. And one of those is fair materials. So we focus now on 8, and we're increasing that number even. Core materials, including gold and cobalt. Cobalt is one of them. We even got Google and Tesla joining us with the Fair Cobalt Alliance that we set up with the MPEX facility, if you guys might be interested in that. But that's really on the mining of cobalt in areas in Congo in a more humane, but also more sustainable way. So we were able to actually get big guys involved in that as well. We use fair trade gold in our phones. We have a lot of fair trade, recycled copper. We don't use any virgin plastics anymore in the phone. So it's really, we're really focusing on 2 sides there. It's virgin material mining, the working conditions, but also the urban mining, the recycling of that. How do we reuse materials that already have been used in other products? We focus on factories, on how they work, and especially on the conditions, which is a totally different context. But as far as I know, we're the only phone company that actually pays a living wage in the factory we work with. Well, to be honest, a phone has like over 1,200 components, or over 1,000 components, of which all of them are made by different factories. So it's a huge supply chain. But we said we focus on certain factories that are willing to actually experiment, also innovate with us, and also do that throughout the whole factory with their customers. So our ODM actually works with the factory we work with, who does the assembly and the packing. We work with living wage bonuses and stuff like that. And yeah, like I said, I call recycling, I tend to call recycling stupid because it is. Recycling is the last step in the whole thing of circularity, right? So it's, especially in electronics, recycling is stupid because what happens is and the really good companies at that, Umicore is doing a great job, but it's great that we can recycle stuff that we can't use anymore. So it is great, but compared to actually using products longer, it's just a shame that we design products in such a way that we can't reuse any of the components, any capacitor, any electronics that's on a phone is just tossed in the oven and melted, smelted to get that stuff out of the phones. So one of the, we do that, we take back more phones than we actually put into the market, and we have strong programs on it, but our main focus is, and we can do that because we're a social enterprise, we have impact investors, our shareholders are patient, long-term thinkers. We focus on long-lasting design, and we can do that because we say, it's very simple, if you can, if you sell a phone and you have your customer use that for 5 years instead of 2 years, which is now the average lifetime of a phone, you only need to produce half the amount of phones. It's a very simple calculation. If you produce half the amount of phones, you have half the amount of e-waste. The biggest footprint of an electronics product is in the making of it, not in the use. Many products are like that, especially phones. Like 70–80% of the harm has already been done once you have the products in your hand. So the best thing is to actually use that product as long as possible. So what we do is we design phones in such a way that you can actually place all the components. It's a modular setup. So I think the design approach to circularity is a super important one, because you basically design part of that, how that supply chain functions, how recycling functions, how reuse is possible. And also, if you make a consumer repairable and people start using that phone twice as long, it's great because you kind of challenge yourself also as a company to rethink your business model. Because you can imagine if I'm a CEO with my shareholders on stage and saying we're going to sell this year, we're going to produce half the amount of phones this year. Shareholders might not be too happy, right? So now we're going to think about, okay, but how do you make money in a way that you disconnect it from the use of resources? Service models. I think Grover is one of the sponsors here, and I think Grover is a really great example of that. So we have that as well. We call it Fairphone 1. I'll go into that after this slide, but just to show you, I think one of the important things is if you want people to use their products longer, you have to do two things. You have to make that product in a way that you can use it longer, but you also have to, you want to have people who use the product actually longer, that don't toss it away after 2 years. So it's also in your marketing, it's in your message, it's how you position yourself. It's as a company, you need to intrinsically embrace that. So what we've done is we actually have KPIs in the company already set, and I love that. That's the dilemmas I really love about sustainability. Because if you look at sustainability, it's easy to say when there's a win-win, it's not really sustainability. It's just it's just making it's just good business. When there's a dilemma, it's really when you want to challenge yourself. And so we set a KPI, sell as many phones as possible, but we also said we want people to use their phone as long as possible. So you can imagine that's kind of like a bomb in the hands of a salesperson, because everybody knows, if you want to sell a product, you sell it to the customers you already have. It's the easiest way. But when you're at Fairphone, you can't, because we mess up our KPI of having people use their product as long as possible. And those KPIs go all the way up to the shareholders. Even the funds who invest in us are managed through those KPIs, and they're performed on those KPIs. So that's really important. So that made us also made it possible to actually set up Fairphone 1, and it's set Fairphone Easy. So to set up Fairphone Easy, and Fairphone Easy is basically incentivizing two things: ourselves to have people use their product as long as possible, because normally if I sell a phone to you, I don't want you to come back, because you're a cost center, and I won't actually sell another phone to you because I want to make money. If it's a service and you pay by a monthly fee, it's fantastic, because I want you to use that phone as long as possible, because I don't want to to have you use another phone because that costs me money because I have to produce one. So that's why we have a subscription system where we actually incentivize, if you use your phone longer and you take care of it really well, if you don't break your screen repairs get cheaper over time. Yeah, so I just, this is just, something I'm proud of. Fairphone already like 4 years ago was assessed by Greenpeace, on everything we do. So that goes from the mining all the way to the business models. And we scored highest as, probably the smallest, tiniest consumer electronics company in the world. And we scored really high. And I think the reason why we were able to do that, just going back to where I started, is that I really see Fairphone as a safe space for many, many companies to experiment with stuff that is hard to do when you're under such pressure of that economic system, shareholders, consumers, everyone. And it works, because we are able to actually make people relate to their products again. People are willing to pay a premium. If that premium is paid, it's also easier to create space to act more sustainable. Now we're heading to more and more towards actually being on par, even with pricing with other premium products. But I think it's really, the value you're creating really comes up when you also know that everybody working together on those products, being part of making that product, is also a value that you can feel and know. And I really think that's kind of the key to unlocking sustainability problems, is also with customers and people using products, because everyone here, even if you run a company, is using products. And if you can relate to those products and you really feel that somebody digging into the ground in Congo all the way down that supply chain is actually part of the product you're using, and you're basically working together to be able to do that. I think if you can get that feeling, you can de-alienate people from their products. And it's easier also for companies and also governments to start stimulating, also in a political way, stimulating better laws and better consumption around these things. Yeah, thanks. I could go on with specifics for a very long time, but I think we have a Q&A as well. So you probably have some questions.
Yes, we have. And thank you, Bas, for your presentation. And it was so great to listen to an underdog story and to poke the big players in the electronics and smartphone business. So thank you very much for that. I think Trudy has the first question. And while she's bringing up the question, I would like to ask everyone else to just raise your hand with the function on Zoom, and then we just go one by one. And feel free to ask Bas any question that you like.
Yeah, so also from my side, thanks so much for the insights. It's really an inspiring story. And since I'm, of course, since Grover is a partner as well, of course, especially I'm excited about the subscription service that you've just started. So I was just wondering, whether you could share any, what's the reaction so far? And I think it's just in the Netherlands, right? For now, right?
Yeah.
But you will be rolling it out. Can I rent my Fairphone in Germany soon?
I hope so. So I've been
other than from Grover, I mean.
No. We've discussed with Grover as well, but it made sense for us to do it ourselves for several reasons. I can't really go into now, but so we don't have the results yet. So I don't want to be too soon. And I think one of the challenges is really getting people to change the mindset of not owning a product. You see that what really is, so Grover is really doing a good job because they have a high-end products, right? So you do really expensive products. It makes sense to do that through subscription. For us, it's really we're pricing wise, we're not in the highest end, but we do have, I think it really makes sense for people to have kind of a piece of 5 years But I think the main challenge would be really changing that mindset. So I don't have the latest sales numbers, but I also see, and that's really nice. It's changing already, right? You have car sharing, you have ownership is changing, and lease models for phones didn't really succeed in the past. But I'm pretty confident that they will now, and especially because it will incentivize us companies to give a lot better service, because as a paying customer for the support, it's much easier to actually support you than when it's under a guarantee model.
Okay, next up is Ken Carroll on a question of copying practices. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, hi Bas.
Hey.
Yeah, it's a question about every company, when they come to a problem to be solved with their product or service, that's a great chance to inject a new option, right? Decision, a new path they can follow. So yeah. What problems have you solved that you can kind of publicize, that others can just say, when we hit this kind of problem with this kind of same composition, we can take this route, and that will kind of deflect the industry around a certain direction?
Yeah, I think that's really important, because it's even in the mission of our company that we want, it's one of the KPIs actually, that we create followers of what we do. It's not that we see ourselves, as the great inspiration, but we want to inspire, and we want to do that, and we actually measure that, and you do that by creating scalable solutions. Just to go back, my first, when I was running a company still, so I'm not running a company anymore, but when I was running a company, one of the things we did with Fairtrade Gold was actually to fly it in a plane to China, because the Shanghai Gold Exchange, they said they were not able to actually track the Fairtrade Gold, and for the certification of the supply chain all the way to the Austrian factory that we were using for electronics for the circuit boards. We couldn't trace it. So Shanghai Gold Exchange, was the bottleneck. So I flew that to the factory, and they made the phone, and we could say, there's Fairtrade Gold in there. But at the same time, we were also talking with the Shanghai Gold Exchange to set up a mass balance system where we would, get in a certain amount of gold and get out the same amount. And we were talking with Fairtrade to make that possible, Fairtrade International. So at the same time of innovating, we're also looking at how scalable can we make it, because it doesn't make sense if we would fly our own Fairtrade Gold to that factory every time. And I can tell you, the factory we work with, they change everything to Fairtrade Gold because of that supply chain being set up, and only like really small cost difference. And many of the HTCs and the Apples around of 2 years ago actually were produced with Fairtrade Gold in it without them even knowing it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your
That's just an example, right? So we have, you can, like we set up all kinds of, you can go to the website. We have an impact report, which might be very useful for people if they want to look at what kind of things that we're doing and where you can look into. It's very, very elaborate in terms of, also making it accessible for other people.
And beyond the report, if you want to connect with someone in Fairphone to sort of engage a bit more deeper on these kind of problems and how they did deflect. How... but that would be probably too much. It's a small team, but I think we have, I can definitely share with the team here also LCAs, for example, we've done with Fraunhofer on the phone, the life cycle assessments, and we can share the impact reports that we've done that really show what kind of projects we've done and how others can also replicate that. Okay, great. Thanks, Bas.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, next up is Caroline Cassignor, and it would be awesome if she would just present her briefly to get more insights. Also, who's in the community and which organization they're joining from.
So, can you see me and can you hear me?
We can hear you.
See me, I just have to activate my camera. Okay, so Yes, my name is Karen Cassina. I'm working at Siemens. So I just have a question concerning the take-back channel. How do you get back your phone, and how do you arrange the infrastructure to get them back? And is it close to the repair site? And do you buy new components, or do you only rely on your second-hand components, or how do you do that? And how do you measure your circularity metrics, and how do you measure how you improve them?
Okay, that's a lot of question. I'll try to break it down a bit, because we have several programs. I think one of them is indeed, it starts with having supporting people to use their phone as long as possible, right? So that's what, for that we have a website where people can order their own components and make it accessible. Don't make it too expensive. You can have a screen repair for $80. So normally you would bring your phone to a shop and you would have to repair it. We don't. If you break the phone yourself, it's not on a guarantee. You can actually fix it yourself most of the time. So that's one. We don't need to have a repair center for that. You can do it at home. Once there is a repair needed, we work with a French, with Cordon, with a French company. And we collect it and we send it to them. So we don't have a distributed way of doing that. We looked at the LCA on that one, like, what makes most sense, and centralized still make most sense, but not sending it back to China. So they collect everything, they test it, and we're also now looking into remanufacturing possibilities at the spot. But they do the refurbishment. Yeah, so what happens is that if everything is, if they test it, they check it, they repack it, and they sell it, and we can sell it again as refurbished. If it needs to be remanufactured, it's packed and sent back to the factories in China and Taiwan. On the take back program, we actually have a program where people can send the phones back, get money. We have discounts on, if you buy a Fairphone and you send an old phone back. So we have a KPI on collecting phones as well. And we do that through giving discounts and to having people to pay for old phones. That's also with our partner Cordon. And we have programs in Ghana and in Nigeria and also in Vietnam. We work with partners that take back phones as a balance system, right? So that is really not our phones, but we work together with them, and we say with every phone we sell, we started. I don't know how it is now, but we started with, we want to take back at least 3 phones from countries where these phones are can't be properly recycled, because they do have the phones, they just can't properly recycle them. So that is also what we do. And then from the recycling, we try to, unfortunately, we can't reuse components. It's just not how phones are designed yet. We can reuse modules, and that's the great thing about how we set up our phone. If a module is broken, the rest of the phone is still fine. You just replace the module, and that module that we can look at fixing it as well. If that doesn't work, then it goes to recycle, and and we get the minerals back, and we reuse those minerals in the production processes.
Okay, next question comes from Remy. Remy, please present yourself and your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation first. I think it was very interesting to hear about your philosophy. Right now I'm unemployed, but I'm trying to transition to circular economy, and I'm reading a lot on the subject, so that's why I'm participating, and I'm very happy to be here. My question was, I think you mentioned at the beginning that you wanted to actually, one of the reasons you started Fairphone was also to motivate the industry to change towards like more fairness, more sustainability. Do you feel like you are achieving this goal, or do you think like big companies like Apple or Google are following your lead, or do you think there's still work to do to actually like make these big players move actually your direction?
It's hard to measure some of these things, right? So what is hard to measure is the impact we have on the conversation about sustainability in the industry. I do believe, without arrogance, that we actually had an impact on the conversation itself and sustainability around electronics. But that's, we can't really measure that. That's an outcome that is, that's up to people for guessing, did Fairphone do that or not? So what we do measure is, like I said, we set up programs ourselves. So we experiment around cobalt. Actually, in 2011, when I went to Congo first time, that was already around cobalt, because we knew batteries were going to be a big issue for the future, especially with the renewables. So and we started with Philips and Signify. And we created a platform, and we really reach out to like Google, Tesla, all these guys who use a lot of batteries, and big car manufacturers in Germany I can't mention, that want to make them part of those projects. There are two reasons for that. One is because of our impact. We want that following. We want to invite that industry. It's 90% of the supply chain that we have is shared by others. Maybe probably 99%, but so we can't isolate our own supply chain. And because of that, and that's the second reason, we need volume to do this, to change this. So if we want to create impact, we need others to actually join projects that we set up in order to make them successful. We don't have buying power in Congo if it's just for us. It's so little, and people, governments wouldn't listen to us. But if you have Google and Tesla with you, well, you have quite some, something to say. So that's how we work. I really see us as because we're a social enterprise. We're on the both NGO side and on the business side, and we can really, easily go in between it. So NGOs trust us quite well. Also, the way we set up our business, business trust us as well, because we just, profitable business. And that makes us that we can have a really nice broker position towards the industry.
Okay. Next up is Caroline Stern. Is she still there? No, she is not. Then,
sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that. So Caroline Stern from Hilti, I run the circular economy program there. And one of the things we've started recently is our remanufacturing program of our power tools. And there's of course a lot of topics regarding the kind of obvious topics of, is it technically feasible in supply chain, and the economics of it and all of that. But sort of to me, what was really interesting was that some of the most complicated questions were actually about the least sexy topics of things like, how do you account for a product going twice through your books? And what's the proper way to remanufacture something that has already been amortized, and at what cost? And how do you reflect that in your tax declarations? And I noticed that there's a huge gap in these really sort of operational finance, tax, and legal topics. And I was wondering if you've come across similar things and how you've dealt with it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have as well. It's not so much the financial and the book side. I think we can, we're a small company, we can manage probably more easily how we can do that. We're very, we don't have our own facilities. We don't have our own, we don't have those are not our problems then, that we don't do it ourselves. But the reuse of and how you set them back, especially on the EU legislations around consumer rights, right? That is one of the biggest challenges for us in terms of the reach, the ROS, the everything. Those are the easier ones, but you have all kinds of new consumer protection programs that actually also need certain testing, and I think that is that's one. And obviously we run into the same problems, but I think the nice thing is that when these problems arise and many players are actually dealing with it, I think it gets cheaper also to solve those problems together, and it might make sense to actually set up also groups to be able to tackle these problems together.
Okay, so I give the word over to Katja, who has a question, and then we take the other two questions that are still remaining in the room to the breakout sessions later. So you will have hopefully the possibility to talk to us face-to-face. But Katja, please.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Hi, Bas. I'm Katja from rebuy, and my question was around sustainability metrics. So you mentioned it before that it is a topic for you, and you incorporate sustainability metrics into how you monitor and steer the company. And I would be interested in more details around that.
Yeah, so we work with KPI, very simple. We have a mission, we're a mission-driven company, it's in the corporation. We work with KPIs, which are both financial and sustainable. Shareholders are also on that same level. So we also use that in terms of impact investing, that we're all on the same page. But now we're looking at because you're, as a startup, it's easier, right? You're all on the same page. Now, if you're more at the private equity phase, and where different kind of money comes in, and also different kind of things are at stake, you also have to look at your governance. And one of the things we're looking at, obviously, is also to do integrated reporting, and to really get that into the system as well. That is a big step, but because we've been reporting to our shareholders already in an integrated way. It's more of a technical thing that we need to do. Yeah, so that would be the next step. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for all your questions. I give over the words to Trudy for a second, and yeah.
Well, yeah. So and for those who don't know, Trudy is another name. Like you can call me Marianne or Trudy. That's both fine. Yeah, I was just want to say I'm really excited about the questions, and Bas, I've been listening, and I have so many more, but I'm holding back. But the whole idea of this program is that we don't want to have that we really want to foster this dialogue and also between you. And I have looked at the list, and many of you we already know, and there's so much knowledge in the room that we really invite you to stay and like in a minute join our breakout rooms. We'll just quickly tell you about what's the next step of our program. But really what we are planning to is to invite you all to stay, and we will just put some breakout rooms. It's just like informal gathering, but that just take this opportunity to stay and really talk to the people who are here. Also, Bas will stay. We will all be here from Circularity if you have any questions about the program. But it's really going to be. I'm really already looking forward to talking to you directly in a little bit smaller group, and then you can also still post all the questions or ask all the questions that you might have. But thanks so much, Bas. It was really amazing, and we'll start with this with the smaller groups in a second. But I think Alina will tell you a little bit more about what we are having is the next step.
Yes, sorry, I was looking for my unmute button. Okay, so it's not even me who's going to tell you the next steps, because we have our next host in here. Our next event is already starting next week. You can sign up on Eventbrite. You can use the link, which Johannes post in the chat now, or you can use the QR code, and Katja from rebuy will give you some heads up on what's waiting for us next week.
Yes, so that's my turn again. As I said, I'm Katja from rebuy, leading the whole collaboration with Circularity from our side, and I'm very happy to introduce to you our event. So what we are doing in general, or we were talking a lot thanks to Bas' inspiring presentation about phones, and we will continue doing this in the next webinar, which we will host next week. It will be a hybrid one, so we will meet up in our office in Berlin Mitte, and you're all very welcome to join. We'll be very happy to see many of you next week in person. And what we will be talking about, or our CEO, Philip Gattner, who's also here today, and also Sam who's in charge of our partnerships. They will be talking about collaborations between recommerce companies and traditional companies. So we will learn more about how we work as rebuy, what our sustainability and circularity priors are, but also obviously about how we collaborate with traditional companies. We'll have a little case study to take a deep dive in, which Sam will guide you through. And apart from it, you will have the chance to meet me and Philip in person, but also have some drinks and snacks. And yeah, feel free to join next week, Wednesday at 6 in our office in Berlin.
Well, thanks so much, Katja. I'm already looking forward very much to meeting you in person. But for all of those who can't meet in person in Berlin, we of course will do a hybrid event, so you can also join online. So nobody has to miss the insights that rebuy will share. What I want to say, like Johannes just posted a link. So if you want to stay informed, like know about the upcoming events from this event series. Or even have ideas how what you want to share or want to collaborate in this program and actually actively bring in your knowledge and your enthusiasm, just sign up on this list that Johannes just shared, and just so you will be sure to not miss any information about the program.
All right, so there's so much knowledge in the room. Let's go into the breakout sessions. We want to hear what your issues are. What are you bringing to the stage here? What's your topic? What do you want to work on? Do you want to take part in the action track, or any general questions or feedback to us? We're open to anything for the next 30 minutes. Yes, so I think we're working on the breakout sessions right now, which will be initiated right now. And thank you, everyone. And I'm looking forward to smaller discussions now.